Hi, I'm Alex, and welcome to the presentation of our paper, For What It's Worth, Humans Override Their Economic Self-Interest to Avoid Bargaining with AI Systems. In this paper, we look at the effect of AI systems on human behavior in economic bargaining environments, such as trade, auctions, or wage negotiations. Many of these domains either already experience or will experience a search and algorithmic decision-making, usually based on predictive AI, and popular examples include algorithmic pricing, automated credit loan scores, or hiring decisions. Now, there are a lot of promises that come with that development. AI does have the potential to increase market efficiency simply by making improved predictions. However, these efficiency gains can only be realized if at least two conditions hold. One, in order for AI systems to be economically useful, people need to engage with them. And within that interaction, AI systems need a good model of how humans behave to produce useful outcomes. This paper tries to make a first contribution towards measuring what drives human self-selection into bargaining with AI systems under economic stakes. We deploy an economic experiment to answer three main research questions. One, do humans self-select into specific interactions depending on an AI system's autonomy? Two, are human preferences for or against AI systems explained by economic expectations, which would be first based on model of behavior? And three, does the introduction of these systems affect our economic welfare? Now, method. Our experimental framework is an augmented version of the ultimatum game, a well-known and widely studied model framework in economics. Subjects are assigned one of two roles, the proposer and the responder. The proposer receives a sum of money, £5 in our case, and subsequently makes an offer on how to divide that money between both players. Respondents can either accept or reject that offer. If the responder rejects, both receive nothing. If the responder accepts, the money is split according to the proposer's offer. For time's sake, this video will focus on responder behavior, which is our main interest. In the paper, we also document proposer behavior. In our version, rather than reacting to an offer, respondents indicated the minimum amount they were still willing to accept from the proposer without observing the proposer's offer beforehand. Hence, if the responder, for example, decided to only accept 40% of the £5, but the proposer only offered 30%, both players received nothing. Before engaging into the negotiation, respondents choose to bargain with one of three proposer types: another human proposer who could use an AI system to determine the offer, or an AI system that autonomously negotiated on behalf of a human proposer. And lastly, subjects in this experiment always made the bargaining decision by choosing one of 6 possible allocations. To determine if economic expectations explain responder selection, so if responders simply choose the expected value maximizing proposer type, or if they maybe display negative or positive attitudes towards AI systems that override economic self-interest, we elicited incentivized beliefs about how each proposer type will negotiate at the start of the experiment. To do that, subjects completed the Binarized scoring task. The basic idea here is rather simple. For each proposer type and each potential action of the respective proposer, respondents indicated the degree to which they thought the proposer would at least match a given minimum split. To illustrate, here's one decision table. This is for the proposer type AI system and the allocation 3, which means an offer of 200 or 500 coins from the proposer to the responder. Responders now have to choose a row. Depending on the actual decision of the proposer, either the left or the right column then determines the probability of receiving a fixed reward that amounts to £2.5. So if the proposer offers at least those 200 coins from the allocation, the left column determines the responder's income. If the proposer offers less, then the right column determines the responder's income. Thus, a clairvoyant responder who, for example, knew that the proposer offered 300 coins would always choose row 1 to secure the payoff. If the responder is less certain, they might instead choose row 11 to ensure good chances either way. In total, respondents made 18 such decisions, 6 per proposer type, and at the end, the computer randomly choose 1 to determine payoff. So basically, then what we did and what we had to do was first to identify which proposer type maximized a responder's expected income based on their beliefs in the first stage, and then compare these beliefs with their approach decision, so whether they engage with a proposer that maximizes their income, or if they maybe choose a different one due to any presumably non-monetary reason. And then finally, we checked whether the selected proposer type correlated with different bargaining decisions. All right, now to the results. First off, we find that responders generally avoid the AI system. Only 12.5% choose to approach that proposer type. And when we look at their bargaining behavior, we also see that responders who choose the autonomous AI system demand significantly more money, whereas there are no differences for the other 2 types. Now, the question in this paper primarily is, can these selection patterns be explained by economic expectations? So people tend to avoid them. Do they maybe simply fear exploitation by the AI system, for example, through higher ability? As we can see here, this is not the case. In fact, respondents were much more likely to expect the autonomous system to maximize their income than both other human proposer types. Now, how do these numbers, expectations, and approaches relate to one another? When do economic expectations and approach decisions correlate? On the right side, we can see responder approach decisions segmented by the expected income maximizing proposer type. And as we can see, respondents do not maximize economic returns when the income maximizing proposer is the autonomous AI system specifically. Instead, they divide pretty evenly between the other two types. And here, a direct comparison of the responder share that shows the expected income maximizing proposer. And we see a clear progression whereby most responders maximize their expected economic returns when the human proposer is the corresponding option, which decreases with increasing AI system autonomy. Finally, we did an exploratory qualitative analysis of an open-ended post-experimental question where we asked subjects to explain why they chose to approach their respective proposer type. Two people who did not participate in the design of the study then categorized these answers independently, and here are the results. What we can see is that responders who chose the sole human were a lot more likely to indicate an aspect relating to the proposer's empathy or emotions. Responders approaching the hybrid proposer valued the shared information set, which ostensibly combines then both human and AI system knowledge. But as we can see, also comes with the downside of being by far the least predictable type. Overall, we can say people appear to assign heterogeneous but distinct judgments to each proposer type, but of course a lot more careful research is needed to really understand how these differences translate into attitudes and behavior and how context dependent they are. So to sum up, yes, humans self-select into specific interactions since they clearly prefer to approach human proposers. Second, human avoidance of AI systems cannot be explained by their economic expectations. In contrast, they appear to override their economic self-interest to avoid bargaining with the AI system. And third, does the introduction affect overall economic welfare? In our setting, responders who bargain with the autonomous AI system demand a larger share of the pie to successfully contract with a substitute human. This, ceteris paribus, leads to welfare losses due to unsuccessful negotiations where both parties receive nothing. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions or want to reach out, do not hesitate.